Okay, welcome mathematicians. The notes at the top, if you need to pause the video and copy those, go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to show you how to simplify. Now there's two ways to do this. For those of you that can see these numbers in larger numbers, like I can see that 12 is the same thing as, notice that there's a 4. I notice that it's 4 times 3. So when I have my square root of 12, I will break that into 4 times 3. It is the same thing. I also know that the square root of 4 is 2. So instead of leaving the 4 on the inside, I turn it into a 2 on the outside. That is one way. When you see the perfect square in the number, you literally can pull out the square root of that number and then rewrite it. Now, if you did not see that 12 was 4 times 3, way back in I think 4th grade or 5th grade, you learned to factor numbers. We made factor trees. So we did 12 is 4 times 3, and you can use your multiplication chart. Then I know that 4 is 2 times 2. I cannot break up the 3 anymore. These are all my factors of 12. So if it helps you, you can actually write all the factors in. 2 times 2 times 3. Now since there's 2 2's, when I do the square roots, I can take them out, but I only write it once. Okay. Now let's go ahead and practice a few more. So notice I got to the same answer both ways. Factor trees, or use your list in your multiplication chart. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 1. Number 1 is 18 on the inside. Do I see any numbers here that are going to go into 18? Well, I know 16 can't because that's way too big. Does 9 go into 18? It does. It is the square root of 9 times 2. So the square root of 9, I know is 3, so I'm going to pull that out. But the square root of 2 has to stay. Now what I need to recognize here is this 3 square root 2 is irrational, because the square root of 2 is not a perfect square. Let's go to number number 2. Now I notice that the square root of 7, I'm going to look for numbers that go into 7. 1 does not, 4 does not, and 9's too big. So this is already simplified. I can't do anything to that. Now let's look at number 3. Number 3 has a 24 on the inside. I'm going to look for numbers that go into 24. 1. Does 4 go into 24? Yes, it does. So my negative square root of 24 is the same thing as 4 times 6. Notice that 4 is a square root, the square root of 4 is 2, so I pull the 2 out, leave that negative, and then I can put the 6 in. That 6, I cannot break it down anymore, so it has to stay 6. Okay, let's look at number 4. Take a minute, look at 40. Which of these numbers is going to go into 40? Hopefully you see that 4 will go into 40. 4 times 10. The square root of 4 is 2, so I pull that one out. But the square root of 10 needs to stay the square root of 10. We just saw this one on the other page, right? 16. Which of these numbers goes into 16? Well, 16 goes into 16, but then so does 4. So that is the square root of 4 times 4. So that means, since it's 4 times 4, I just pull the 4 out and it's done. We'll do one more, and then I'll let you guys practice. Now, this one's a little bit trickier because notice it already has a 2 on the outside. I'm going to look at what numbers go into 8. 1 doesn't. 4 does. So I have a 2 on the outside, and then I have 4 times 2. Now, I know that the square root of 4 is 2, so I have to leave the original 2. Then I have to pull out this 2. That 2 has to stay on the inside. Now, as mathematicians, remember, we tend to be a little lazy. Remember, there's multiplication between each one of these. So to simplify this, 2 times 2 is 4. And I keep my square root 2. Let's do one more that looks like that, just so you guys get an example. Notice in number 11. Number 11 has a 6 on the outside, and then the square root sign has a 25. What goes into 25? Well, 25 is a perfect square, so that I know that it's 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So now, since the square root of 25 is 5, I'm left with 6 times 5, because that square root gets rid of one of those. 6 times 5 is 30. And that is my answer. That is my simplified version. Now in this case, my number became a rational number, right? Because it's a whole number. But in 6, I still have the square root of 2 in there, so this one is still irrational. So once you simplify, it helps you to determine if it's rational or if it's irrational. So I'm going to let you guys practice on this page. There's a few more left for you. I'm going to pause the video and then we'll move on at the next step.